two best friends. One court. One winner. One heartbreaking loser. But here's the part nobody is talking about. The last time these two faced each other, it wasn't even a contest. And yet, everything feels different now. Because in the weeks that followed, something happened that changed the entire story. Something that has nothing to do with forehands or rankings, and everything to do with what happens when friendship collides with ambition. Stay with me because by the end of this video, you'll see this match from a completely different perspective. And once you do, you won't be able to look at it the same way again. Let's go back to Paris. Just 2 weeks ago, under the bright lights of Roland Garros, on the red clay that has broken champions and created legends, Alexandra Eala stepped onto the court knowing exactly who stood across the net. Not just an opponent, a friend, a former doubles partner, someone she had shared victories with, laughed with behind the scenes, and spent countless hours alongside on tour. But friendship disappears the moment the first ball is struck. And what followed was brutal. Iva Jovic didn't just beat Alexandra Eala. She dismantled her. The scoreboard told part of the story. 6-4, 6-2. The statistics told the rest. Jovic fired 34 winners. Eala managed only 15. Jovic converted 6 of her 9 breakpoint opportunities. Eala struggled to win points behind her second serve, capturing just 30%. Meanwhile, Jovic dominated behind her first serve, winning 70% of those points. These weren't just losing numbers. These were the kind of numbers that make a player stare at the ceiling long after midnight, replaying every mistake, every missed opportunity, every point that slipped away. The kind of numbers that force an athlete to ask the hardest question in sports. Am I really ready for the next level? And yet, what happened after that defeat may have changed everything. But what's truly fascinating is what happened after the match. While most players disappear for a few days after a painful defeat, something unexpected happened between these two friends. Iva Jovic posted on Instagram, "One of those days I wish there could be 2 winners." And Alexandra Eala responded, "No one I'd rather share the court with." At first glance, it's simply a beautiful exchange between two athletes who genuinely respect each other. But look a little closer, because those words reveal something much bigger about Alexandra Eala's mindset. They reveal that she had already moved on. Not emotionally, strategically. Here's what most people missed. Before Roland Garros had even begun, before the draw was announced, before she knew she would face Jovic in Paris, Eala had already entered the Birmingham tournament. Think about that for a moment. Before a single ball was struck in Paris, she already had her next destination planned. That isn't pessimism. That's preparation. That's a player and coaching team looking months ahead, studying the calendar, identifying opportunities, and refusing to let one tournament define an entire season. The moment her French Open run ended, there was no public frustration, no dramatic collapse, no extended recovery period. She got on a plane, and she got back to work. Because Birmingham wasn't a backup plan. It was part of the plan all along. And that's where this story takes a dramatic turn. The grass courts of Birmingham, the Lexus Open. A completely different surface. A completely different challenge. Eala arrived without the spotlight that followed some of the bigger names in the draw. She wasn't the headline. She wasn't the favorite. But she arrived carrying something powerful. Purpose. Point by point, match by match, she started building momentum. People around the tournament began noticing it. The focus, the intensity, the confidence. This didn't look like a player recovering from a disappointing loss. This looked like a player preparing for something bigger. Then came the final, against Nicola Barcinova. And it became a battle. A war that stretched for 2 hours and 37 minutes. The opening set slipped away from Eala, 7-5. And for a moment, the doubts returned. For anyone who hadn't been paying attention, it felt familiar. Like Paris all over again. Like another opportunity slipping through her fingers. But champions are often defined by what happens next. And that's when Alexandra Eala showed exactly why so many people believe her future is so bright. She refused to break. She refused to disappear. She fought back. She took the second set 6-3. Then, with the title hanging in the balance, She battled through a tense third set and captured it 7-5. When the final point landed, something remarkable happened. The celebration wasn't explosive. It wasn't emotional chaos. It was something deeper. Eala raised her arms, looked toward her team, and smiled. Not like someone who had simply won a tennis match, but like someone who had just completed a mission. Like someone who had taken the disappointment of Paris, carried it across continents, and transformed it into proof. Proof that setbacks don't define careers. Proof that losses can become fuel. And proof that sometimes the most important victories happen immediately after your most painful defeats. 6 consecutive victories on grass. A championship trophy. 125 ranking points. A rise from world number 37 to world number 33. And then, just 2 days later, Alexandra Eala walks into Queen's Club and defeats Zhang Shuai 6-3, 6-2 without dropping a set. As if Birmingham never ended. As if Birmingham was merely the opening chapter. Now stop for a second and think about what that means psychologically. She loses to Iva Jovic on clay. She immediately switches surfaces. She wins 6 straight matches. She never slows down, never disappears, never gives herself permission to feel sorry for herself. Instead, she starts playing the best tennis of her life on the surface that suits her game perfectly. And waiting on the other side of the net? The exact same player who beat her just 2 weeks earlier. If you wrote the script in Hollywood, somebody would reject it for being too perfect, too convenient, too neatly constructed. But this isn't fiction. This is Queen's Club. This is Wednesday. And this is the rematch. Which brings us to the bigger question. Who exactly is Iva Jovic? Because once you understand that, you understand why this match is far more dangerous than Eala's recent form suggests. Iva Jovic is only 17 years old. 17. And yet, she is already ranked among the world's elite. 1 year ago, she was fighting through challenger events and trying to break into the top 100. Today, she is a seeded player at major tournaments and one of the most talked about young talents in tennis. Her rise has been breathtaking. She captured her first WTA title in Guadalajara, becoming one of the youngest champions on tour. At the Australian Open, she announced herself to the world stage with a breakthrough Grand Slam run that drew comparisons to some of the sport's greatest teenage stars. Born in California to a Serbian father and Croatian mother, Jovic combines European tennis traditions with American athleticism. Her forehand is already considered one of the most explosive weapons among young players. And most importantly for this story, her favorite surface is grass. Think about the irony. At the exact moment Eala is producing the best grass court tennis of her career, she runs directly into the one opponent who feels completely at home on the same surface. And then there is the statistic that makes coaches stopsy. Clay and grass are almost different sports. On clay, rallies stretch longer. The ball sits higher. Players have time to build points. On grass, everything happens faster. The ball skids. The bounce stays low. Reaction time disappears. Control shifts toward whoever strikes first. And that's where Eala becomes extremely dangerous. The aggressive returns. The flat backhand. The serve +1 combinations. The willingness to attack early. Everything that worked in Birmingham becomes even more valuable on grass. The version of tennis that defeated her in Paris simply doesn't exist in the same form at Queen's Club. And there's another advantage that can't be measured by statistics. Experience. Eala has already played and won on these courts. She understands the bounce, the speed, the atmosphere, the tiny details that only reveal themselves once competition begins. Jovic is arriving fresh. Eala is already settled, already comfortable, already confident. And then there's the one thing athletes rarely discuss publicly. Revenge. Professional players are trained to say the right things. Respect the opponent. Focus on your game. Take it 1 point at a time. But beneath all of that professionalism, athletes remain human. Losses leave scars. And scars become motivation. After Paris, Eala handled everything with class. She smiled. She congratulated her friend. She showed the maturity that has made her so respected throughout the sport. But then she went to Birmingham and won 6 matches. She turned disappointment into momentum. She transformed frustration into fuel. She didn't carry the loss. She converted it into something useful. And that version of Alexandra Eala may be the most dangerous version we've seen yet. Focused, confident, technically sharp, emotionally settled, hungry. Because if history has taught us anything about Eala, it's that she tends to become even stronger when the stage gets bigger. Remember Miami, the tournament that introduced her to the world. As a wild card, she wasn't expected to challenge the elite. She wasn't seeded. She wasn't favored. She wasn't supposed to make headlines. And then she defeated Madison Keys. Then she defeated Iga Swiatek. Back-to-back victories against 2 of the biggest names in tennis. That wasn't luck. That wasn't a fortunate draw. That was a glimpse into who Alexandra Eala becomes when expectations disappear and opportunity appears. When the pressure rises, she doesn't shrink. She grows. And now, standing across the net from the friend who defeated her in Paris, carrying 6 straight grass court victories and the confidence of a champion, she gets another chance to prove it. And the stakes on Wednesday? For a player at Alexandra Eala's level, they don't get much bigger than this. A victory over a top 20 seed on grass in London, just weeks before Wimbledon, isn't merely another win on a stat sheet. It's the kind of result that changes how the tennis world sees you. The kind of result that reshapes rankings, changes seedings, creates belief. The kind of result that becomes the opening chapter of a future legacy. But what about Iva Jovic? What does she need from this match? The answer is simple. Everything. Because success creates its own pressure. And Jovic's rise has been so rapid, so extraordinary, that expectations now follow her everywhere she goes. 1 year ago, she was fighting for opportunities. Now she walks into tournaments expected to win them. Whether she feels it consciously or not, that weight exists. When you jump from outside the top 150 to inside the top 20 in barely a year, the conversation around you changes forever. People stop asking whether you're talented. They start asking whether you're the future. And that's a much heavier question. Before arriving in London, Jovic reflected on her previous grass court season. Last year was where everything accelerated. Her first WTA 125 title. Her breakthrough into the top 100. Her first Wimbledon main draw. Grass became the surface where her career truly launched. You can hear the excitement when she talks about it. The appreciation. The memories. But there's another layer beneath those words. Last year, Queen's Club represented possibility. This year, it represents expectation. Last year she arrived as a rising star. This year she arrives as someone expected to justify the hype. And the first obstacle standing in her path is perhaps the hottest player in the draw. Alexandra Eala. That's what makes this match almost impossible to predict. And that's why it might be the most fascinating match of the entire week. Because both players bring a completely different kind of evidence. Eala has the momentum. 6 straight victories. A title. Confidence. Rhythm. The feeling that everything she touches is working. Jovic has the numbers. The ranking. The head-to-head victory. The grass court pedigree. The tactical history against left-handed players. If you look at the past, the argument favors Jovic. If you look at the present, the argument favors Eala. And that's the beautiful cruelty of professional sports. History matters. Momentum matters. Yet neither guarantees anything. 2 weeks ago, they played on clay. Now they meet on grass. Same players. Same emotions. Completely different conditions. In Paris, Jovic looked untouchable. In London, Eala looks unstoppable. And somewhere between those two truths lies the answer. Wednesday. Queen's Club. Wimbledon J. UST around the corner. Everything to gain. Everything to lose. And 2 friends preparing to stand on opposite sides of the net once again. That's what makes this matchup so compelling. The contrast. The kindness away from the court. The ruthlessness required on it. The public respect. The private determination. When Jovic defeated Eala in Paris, the match ended with a genuine embrace at the net. No bitterness. No drama. Just two competitors who genuinely admire one another. And when this match ends, regardless of who wins, there will probably be another embrace, another smile, another moment of respect. But between the first point and the last, friendship disappears. For 2 hours, maybe more, there is only competition, only pressure, only opportunity, only the sound of the ball striking the strings, only the grass beneath their feet, only the crowd holding its breath, and two young players trying to discover just how far they can go. That's why this isn't simply another match on the schedule. It's a collision of momentum and expectation, of revenge and validation, of friendship and ambition. It's Alexandra Eala. It's Iva Jovic. It's Queen's Club. And before a single point has even been played, it already feels like one of the defining matches of the 2026 grass court season. The question now is simple. Will history repeat itself? Or will Alexandra Eala turn the most painful loss of her summer into the victory that changes everything?